For most clubs, a new season brings a fresh sense of hope. For Arsenal and Manchester United, it feels more like a reckoning. This isn't just another football match. This isn't just about 3 points on the opening day. This is a brutal new chapter in one of England's most fiercest, bitter rivalries. A rivalry forged in fire and defined by moments of genius, madness, and pure, raw animosity. For an Arsenal side haunted by what might have been a team that's perfected the art of being the bridesmaid, and for United team clawing desperately their way out of the wreckage of their darkest Premier League hour. This one game, this single 90-minute battle at Old Trafford could be the difference between redemption and ruin. But to really get the weight of this match, you have to know the history. Its story that stretches back over a century, but it was truly weaponised in the pressure cooker of the Premier League. For the better part of a decade, English football was a two-party state, and its capitals were North London and Manchester. The war was fought between two men who defined an era: Arsene Wenger, the revolutionary professor, and Sir Alex Ferguson, the fearsome, gum-chewing emperor. Their animosity was legendary, a chess match played with studs and soundbites. On the pitch, it was hell, personified by their two lieutenants, Patrick Vieira and Roy Keane. They were the heartbeats of their clubs, two immense midfield generals who would sooner leave the pitch on the stretcher than give an inch. Their battles weren't just contests, they were seismic events that sent shockwaves through the league. This was a rivalry that bled past the white lines. Remember the old infamous 22-man brawl at Old Trafford in 1990. It was so volatile that it got both clubs a points deduction. Or the Battle of Old Trafford in 2003, a snarling, goalless draw that ended with Arsenal players screaming in Ruud van Nistelrooy's face after he missed a penalty. A moment of raw, primal release that would fuel United's revenge, and that revenge came again and again and again. Then, of course, there were fake-up finals that decided legacies, title deciders that felt like the centre of the footballing universe. And of course, Pizzagate, that infamous post-match melee where a slice of pizza was allegedly chucked at Sir Alex Ferguson. Sounds silly now, but at the time, it showed just how deeply personal this conflict had become. United often had the upper hand, culminating in the soul-crushing 8-2 demolition of Arsenal in 2011, a result that felt like an end of an era and was Arsenal's heaviest league defeat since 1896. In the years since, as new challenges have risen and fortunes have faded, the fire has cooled. The hatred is less obvious, the stakes less consistently stratospheric, but it was never put out. The embers have always been there, glowing, just waiting for a right gust of wind to reignite the flames. This match, on August the 17th, 2025, feels like that gust of wind, connecting the bitter legacy of the past with the desperate stakes of the present. I'm going to have a quick drink and then we'll carry on. Before this next bit is about the fall and frustration of Manchester United's rock bottom. Thank you. To understand what this game means for Manchester United right now, we have to sift through the wreckage of last season, and calling the 24-25 season a disaster doesn't quite do it justice. It was a statistical and spiritual collapse, the likes of which the club has never seen in the Premier League era. The final table doesn't just tell a story, it screams a confession. 15th place, that's not a pin misprint, 15th. Only 42 points from 38 agonising games. This wasn't a blip, it was a flat line. The club that once dined at the very top of European football was suddenly looking nervously over its shoulder. At the heart of this collapse was the decay of their fortress, Old Trafford. The theatre of dreams had become a stage for nightmares. An almost unbelievable 9 home defeats. Let that sink in. 9 home defeats scarred the campaign. Think about that. 9 times visiting teams walked into one of the most intimidating stadiums in the world of football and walked out with all 3 points. The fear factor was gone, replaced by a morbid curiosity from visiting fans. In fact, United scored fewer goals at home all season than every team except for the 3 that were relegated. The theatre of dreams had lost its voice, its aura, its very soul. The team itself looked disjointed, completely devoid of any confidence, and playing without any coherent plan. It was a total failure that led to an inevitable conclusion. Wholesale change was needed. The club, under a new structure, knew that they just couldn't paper over the cracks. They had to demolish the rotten foundations and start over. Their answer? Wow. A man from Portugal. A man with a clear, uncompromising vision, known for tactical innovation and forging a powerful team identity. Into the eye of a storm walks Ruben Amorim, the man tasked with one of the biggest rebuilding jobs in modern football. He isn't just a new manager, he is a symbol of a desperate gamble. A gamble that his philosophy can be the antidote to the poison that has infected Old Trafford. But the question hanging heavy in the Manchester air is a daunting one. So who really is it, Ruben Amorim? And can he really fix this broken former giant? When a club hits rock bottom, it usually reaches for one or two things: a pragmatist to steady the ship, or a visionary to chart a new course. In hiring Ruben Amorim, Manchester United have emphatically chosen a visionary. His arrival signalled one of the biggest tactical shifts in the club's recent history, a complete break from chaotic reactive football of the last few seasons. So what is the Amarin way? At its core, it's a high-intensity, possession-based game, usually played in a flexible 3-4-3 formation. But this isn't just about numbers on the tactic board, it's a philosophy built on proactive, aggressive football. The first thing to get is that the team is everything. When asked to define his philosophy in one word, Amarin's answer was simple: team. He demands that the collective comes first, that every player knows their role inside a complex, interconnected system. Let's break down that 3-4-3. It starts with three ball-playing centre-backs who are expected to launch attacks. In front of them, a two-man midfield pivot controls the centre of the park. But the real engine room of Amarin's team is the wing-backs. These aren't your traditional full-backs. They have to provide the team's width, act as relentless attacking outlets, and perform one of the most physically demanding jobs on the pitch. Defending in the back five one moment and bombing forward the next. In Ruben Amarin's system, the front three is also unique. They don't hug the touchline, instead they operate more centrally, playing in the pockets of space behind a lone striker, looking to receive the ball between the lines and create overloads. This narrow attack is designed to do two things: drag defenders into the middle and create huge amounts of space out wide for those on-rushing wing-backs to exploit. In possession, the shape is fluid, often looking like a 3-5-2, as the team builds an attack with a goal of getting 4 or 5 players into the box to overwhelm the defence. Out of possession, it's just as disciplined, shifting into a compact 5-2-3 or 5-4-1 block. Amarin demands an aggressive man-to-man press, with forwards hounding defenders and even chasing down the opposition goalkeeper. This is a highly structured system that requires certain things. It requires intelligence, stamina, and total buy-in from every single player. And that is both the great hope and the great risk for Manchester United. This system is the polar opposite of the individualistic, disjointed football they played last season and over the last few seasons. Pre-season has shown flashes of both promise and problems. The big win over Bournemouth was followed by a shaky draw with Everton, suggesting the adaptation is far from over. Can this squad adapt to such a demanding system? Will players who look lost suddenly find new life in such defined roles? Or will the transition be a painful one, full of the kind of mistakes that a ruthless opponent like Arsenal will surely punish? Ruben Amarin isn't just changing a formation, he's attempting a full-scale identity transplant, and this is the first major test of whether the new heart will be accepted or rejected. I'll have a quick drink again. Sorry about this, but it's quite dry in here today. While Manchester United are desperately searching for an identity, Arsenal are tormented by the one they've perfected. The brilliant, beautiful, but ultimately tragic runner-up. For 2 straight seasons, they watched Manchester City lift the Premier League trophy. And last season, as a new challenger emerged, they were forced to watch Liverpool stride past them to glory. They had become the chief bridesmaid, always left standing at the altar as the confetti falls for somebody else. This isn't just bad luck, it's a pattern, a psychological burden that gets heavier every year. The 24-25 campaign was perhaps the most frustrating of all. There was no late season collapse, no dramatic implosion, it was a death by 1,000 cuts. A season defined by a crippling number of draws, 14 in total. 14 times they walked off the pitch sharing the points, unable to find that ruthless edge to turn 1 point into 3. It was a season where their attack, once so potent, lost its sharpness, scoring just 69 goals, their lowest tally under Mikel Arteta. The pain for us Arsenal fans is in how close they are. This is not a broken team, far from it. Very far from it. Under Arteta, we've become one of the most tactically sophisticated and cohesive units in Europe. We have a settled system, a core of world-class young players, and a manager who has built a powerful culture. We control games, we dominate possession, and on our day, we can tear anyone apart. But there is something missing, that final 5%, that killer instinct that separates champions from contenders. Is it a lack of depth, a need for a more clinical goal scorer, or is it something you can't measure, a mental block that shows up when the pressure is at its highest? The run-up curse is no longer just a story. Pushed by outsiders, it's a genuine fear inside the fan base. This opening match, therefore, carries an immense psychological weight. It's an immediate test of our resolve. Starting the season with a statement win, especially at a ground where we've suffered so much, would be a powerful exorcism. It would signal that this year is different. But the alternative is a terrifying, truly terrifying thought. To stumble out of the blocks, to drop points against a rival in such a mess, would just pour fuel on that simmering fire of doubt. It would invite the same old questions, that creeping sense of dread that this season might just be another sad repeat. For this brilliant but burdened Arsenal side, the question is clear. How do we finally break the curse? So, it's a conundrum, isn't it? How do we finally overcome Old Trafford's ghosts? Well, the path to breaking our curse begins on that very hostile ground, Old Trafford. It's a stadium that's been a graveyard for us and our ambitions for the better part of 2 decades. The stats are damning and impossible to ignore. We have won just 3 of our last 23 league away games at Manchester United. It is, without question, our bogey ground. where form and logic seems to go out of the window. And yet, if there is ever a time to shatter that curse, it's now. We arrive in Manchester not as underdogs, but as a team with a formidable weapon. Our away form last season was outstanding. On the road, taking 35 points and entering this new campaign on a run of 14 straight away league games without a loss. We've built a resilience and a tactical maturity that lets us control games, even in the toughest atmospheres. We've also consistently found a net at Old Trafford, having scored in our last 11 visits. The problem hasn't been creating chances, it's been turning them into wins. And that is what sets up a fascinating tactical fight. A well-oiled machine against a chaotic construction site. Sorry about that. Arteta's Arsenal will likely stick to the fluid 4-3-3. They will want to dominate the ball, patiently probing for weaknesses, using a clever movement of the midfield and the explosive pace of Saka and Martinelli. The key question is how this established system will exploit a United side in the middle of a radical change. Can Arsenal's wingers ping back Amorim's adventurous wingbacks, forcing them to defend and utilising one of United's main threats? Can Arsenal's midfield trio, a unit built on chemistry, overrun and disorient United's new double pivot, who will still be learning their roles? The space should be there to attack. A team playing a high defensive line for the first time under a new manager is always vulnerable. The gaps between the three centre-backs, the space behind the wing-backs, these are the areas Arsenal attackers will look to exploit. On the other hand, United's new system poses a unique threat. Arsenal are used to playing against the back four. The 3-4-3, where it's now our front three, could create a numbers advantage in the middle of the pitch and disrupt Arsenal's build-up. If United's aggressive press works, it could force turnovers in dangerous areas and lead to a kind of fast, vertical attacks that Amorim loves. This match will be a chess match of space and pressure. Can Arsenal's patient game dismantle a United team still learning the rules? Or will United's newfound intensity shock an Arsenal side used to having their own way? Who knows? Anything is possible. So, now our season could be on the line, couldn't it? So the stage is set. August the 17th, Old Trafford. Two giants of English football standing at a brutal, season-defining crossroads. This is more than just an opening game. It's a referendum on the future of two clubs. All that history, all the tactical questions, all the summer's hopes and fears come down to one single 90 minutes. For Manchester United, the stakes are almost terrifyingly high. This is the dawn of the Ruben Amorim era. This is a real test. A victory, especially a convincing one, against a rival like Arsenal would be like a shot of adrenaline to the heart of the club. It would validate the manager's appointment, energise a beaten down fan base, and send a message to the league that the giant isn't dead. It would provide the most precious thing of all: belief. Great amounts of self-belief. But a loss would be ruinous. To be beaten at home on day one by this Arsenal side would immediately puncture the fragile balloon of optimism. It would amplify the whispers of doubt, suggesting the rot at the club is too deep for any one man to fix. The pressure would be immense from the very start. It would feel like the new chapter was just a copy of the last horrifying one. Now, what for Arsenal? Well, for Arsenal, the equation is different, but just as critical. This is our shot at redemption. This is our chance to silence the ghosts of Old Trafford and the taunts of being nearly men. Going to our most feared ground and beat our old rival would be the ultimate statement of intent. It would be a psychological barrier shattered, a declaration that this team is ready to seize its future. A win here is worth more than 3 points. It's worth a reservoir of self-belief that could fuel our entire campaign. However, a defeat would be a deep wound. To lose this to this Manchester United team, a team in transition, a team that finished 15th, would be a catastrophic blow to morale. The same old questions would immediately resurface. Are we mentally strong enough? Are we cursed with a tag of runner-up? Is that tag really real? Yeah. Is this season destined to be another tale of what might have been? Something has to give. United have historically been strong on opening weekends, but have lost 2 of their last 5. Arsenal, meanwhile, are on a 3-year winning opening day streak. It's a collision of a club desperate for a fresh start against a club desperate for a different ending. So, though I am confident in Arsenal's, 2 things stick in my mind. Our record at Old Trafford. We don't do well there, even when we are better than them. Statistically, though, the 2 best score lines are 1-1 and 0-0. Next is 1-0 to Arsenal, and then 1-0 to United. Also going into that mix is at home, United have won 50, drawn 29, and lost 18 against us. Then we get onto the referee, Simon Hooper. So both teams fare well with him charge, both at home and away. So there are no issues there. Statistically, we outshoot United on a slightly, if not negligible, better conversion rate, 10% to 9%. As a team, it takes us around 11 shots to score at Old Trafford, and then 12 against us at Old Trafford. So with that in mind, I'm going with a 1-1. I don't mind if we win, and being wrong on this. Just as a gambling man, you don't just ignore the stats. So now my team selection. There are 4 positions, I think, that are up for debate. And those are right back, left back, centre forward and left wing. So here we go into what I think Arteta would do. In goal, David Raya. Right back, Ben White. Saliba, Gabriel, so our prize here, it's Timber at left back. Midfield picks itself. Zubamendi, Rice and Odegaard. On the right, Saka. On the left, I'm going Martinelli. My biggest dilemma is what Arteta does. And that's hard to know. So I'm going with the emotional one, and I will go Gyökeres. But before I give you my final thoughts, I want to hear from you. What do you think is the single biggest factor that will decide this game? Is it Amorim's new system or Arsenal's mentality? Let me know your predictions in the comments below, and if you've enjoyed this deep dive. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more analysis throughout the season. So in conclusion, this is what makes the Premier League the greatest drama in the world. A single match that carries a decade of history and the hopes of an entire season for Manchester United. It's about proving that the darkest hour is really just before the dawn. For Arsenal, it's finally about stepping out of the shadows and into the sun. It's a match that promises either the sweet relief of redemption or the bitter taste of ruin. Will it be redemption for the Gunners, or will United drag them down into their own ruin? We're about to find out. Thank you for watching. I'm Gunner Richie, or Statman Rich, or Rich, whatever. Thank you. If you'll see here a link to subscribe to the channel, a channel playlist, and a link to In North Banquet, which is the other channel I'm on. Go and check them out. Be greatly appreciated. And remember, be safe, and I'll catch you on the flip side.